Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update. In a week where Australia celebrated a record-breaking Olympic Games, for the first time ever, Australia won gold medals every day for the first 8 days of the competition. There's been a small shift in support for the Albanese government, but the overall political picture remains very close, and several key indicators like consumer confidence, government confidence, and inflation expectations remain at worrying levels. So the latest Roy Morgan survey shows that if a federal election were held now, the result would be a narrow win for the Labor Party, with the ALP on 51.5%, up just 1%, ahead of the Coalition on 48.5% on a two-party preferred basis. Although neither party increased their support this week, the flow of preferences from minor parties tipped further in favour of the ALP, once again highlighting the importance of preference flows to determine the overall two-party preferred result. The Coalition primary vote decreased 0.5% to 37%, while ALP support was unchanged at 30.5%. Support for the Greens dropped 1% to 12%, and One Nation was down 1% to 5.5%. Smaller parties and independents again gained support this week. Support for other parties was up 1% to 5%, and support for independents increased 1.5% to 10%. That's the highest it's been so far this year. Government confidence was down slightly for a second straight week. A majority, 53% of Australians, say the country's going in the wrong direction. That's up 0.5% in a week, while only 32% say the country's heading in the right direction, down 1.5%. This means Roy Morgan government confidence is down 2 points to 79, well below the neutral level of 100. And consumer confidence was also down slightly this week. ANZ Roy Morgan consumer confidence was down 1.8 points to 81.3. Driving this week's decrease in consumer confidence were Australians' concerns about their own personal finances over the next year. In the lead up to today's Reserve Bank Board meeting on interest rates, more Australians expect to be worse off financially this time next year. 34%, up 3%, expect to be worse off. Only 30%, down 2%, expect to be better off. Clearly, the Reserve Bank's decision on interest rates today will have a significant impact on what happens to consumer confidence this week. Longer term, consumer confidence has now spent a record 79 weeks, about 18 months, below the level of 85. This week, inflation expectations were virtually unchanged at 5.1%. The ANZ Roy Morgan Inflation Expectations Indicator now shows Australians expect annual inflation to be 5.1% per annum over the next 2 years. Longer term, inflation expectations have been remarkably stable this year and have stayed within a narrow band of 4.8% to 5.3% for 35 weeks, or about 8 months. Last week we talked about the continued rise of Amazon, and now another Roy Morgan update on the growth in online retail and the amazing success of new players Temu and Shein. As many Australians deal with a huge cost of living crisis that's curtailing broad retail sales, retail volumes on a per capita basis fell for the 8th straight quarter in June, according to the latest ABS retail sales data that was released just last week. The value and convenience of Temu and Shen is making a significant impact. New data from Roy Morgan, capturing the annual shopper base of these ultra-cheap online disruptors, reveals the staggering number of buyers. 3.8 million Australians aged 14 plus are buying from Temu at least once over the last 12 months, while 2 million are buying from Shein. And they're not just buying once. Among those customers who've shopped at Shein or Temu in the last 12 months, the majority are repeat customers. 76% of Shein shoppers and 80% of Temu shoppers are buying at least twice in that 12-month period from each platform. And many are high-frequency buyers. 42% of Shein shoppers are buying 4 or more times in a 12-month period, and 48% of Temu shoppers are buying 4 or more times over 12 months. And it's growing monthly. Roy Morgan's been tracking the numbers on monthly shoppers on Temu and Shein since the last quarter of 2023. The deepening cost of living crisis over the last 9 months has triggered a real surge in the number of Australians shopping on Shein and Temu each and every month. Over this short time, the number of shoppers has continued to grow at a staggering rate. Number of people shopping each month on Temu has grown by 32%, from 1.26 million in the October to December 2023 quarter to 1.66 million in the April to June quarter. Over the same time period, Shein's shopper base has grown 34%, leaping from 830,000 monthly shoppers to 1.1 million over the same time period. And there's no real reason to expect present growth trends for these two fast-growing brands will slow down anytime soon. The high and rising cost of living is set to be a major issue for millions of Australians heading into the next year's federal election. For more detailed data and information on the stunning growth of Temu and Shen, as well as traditional online retailer Amazon, head over to the Roy Morgan website via the links below. And that's a wrap. Thanks for your interest this week in Roy Morgan's latest results, and I'll be back next week to bring you more information, the most up-to-date readings on consumer confidence, inflation expectations. We'll be looking at unemployment as well as voting intentions in Australia. Thanks for listening.